Sometimes people will look at us when we are later in life and think, wow, they had it easy. But as we know from some of our ancestors from the Depression era, it wasn't always easy, but they made the most of what they had. And that's what I continue to do today. I hope you'll join me for this video. Welcome to Pennies to Dollars. I'm Bonita. I'm so glad that you took part of your day to spend with me today. When I got up this morning, I thought I'm going to do a video. So I put on a nice top and then I went outside and drank my coffee because we had some fall-like weather. And then I thought, I'm going to take advantage of this nice weather and I'm going to mow a piece. And so I got out the mower, and wouldn't you know, a big glob of green grass flew up, hit me in the shirt, and it was white, and made a big green grass stain on one of my good shirts. Now, if you've ever lived on a homestead or in the country, you know it is so easy to ruin just about everything that you have to wear. You always end up with some sort of stain on there. And then when it comes time to wear something nice, you're like, what do I have that's not stained? And so I had to look up on the internet how to get rid of a grass stain, because this is one of my nice shirts. And I thought it's probably lost. No. It said to put alcohol gel on that spot. I did, and it lifted it right off, and now it's in the wash. So making the most of what you have, that's what this video is about today. My brothers were much older than me. They had work clothes, they had home clothes, and my parents were the same. And my mom would wear clothes until they were threadbare. And those threadbare clothes she would wear to work on the farm in the summer because they were cooler. And those became her summer clothes. My brothers would change their clothes as soon as they got home from school so that they could work on the farm and not ruin their school clothes. Much of that thinking was passed on to me, and I still continue to live very much that way. I try to make the most out of everything that I have. And in this next video, I'm going to show you how I went in the kitchen and made some things out of some stuff that people might have tossed. But in my upbringing, you made the most of everything, and you didn't toss a potato if it was wrinkly. You didn't toss an apple if it was starting to draw up. You made the most of those things. And I used that in raising my kids. I would go into the kitchen with hardly anything in the cabinets and somehow scrounge up a nutritious, delicious meal that would feed everyone. And always I would look back at the kitchen and wonder how I did it. And it was by the grace of God that He gave me the creativity to come up with ways to make something out of basically stuff that other people might have tossed. So I'm going to share that with you in this next cooking video. This is what we have been doing in the kitchen lately, and it saves us a bunch of money. We have been using up things that we have. So if you go in the kitchen and you're like, what am I going to make? We just don't have hardly anything. I start with a couple of loaf pans. We heat and eat, bake everything right in the same pan. And I get 2 loaf pans, one for me, one for my husband. I split about 2 to 3 carrots. I throw in whatever vegetables I have on hand. We've been using a lot of sweet potatoes lately. We've used some snap peas that I had on clearance. Today, I even chopped up an old apple that was getting squishy, and I'm going to split that between us, and it's going to give a little bit of sweetness to this dish, and it's still going to be very, very delicious and nutritious. My husband will be excited when he bites into an apple. I had about 3 squishy potatoes. They can still be used and baked and cooked into just about anything. Sometimes we think, oh, they're too squishy, they're not edible, but they totally are. So I'm mixing those between the 2 pans, And I've been using any type of meat that I have. So we're going to use hamburger patties today. I've also been using chicken. I've used pork chops. I'm going to add in part of our zucchini from our garden. I'm going to cut and peel that and add that. I have a couple of corns on the cob that have been frozen. I'm going to throw that in with our hamburger patty. And then we have been just drowning it in Old Bay and cooking it for about an hour on 400 covered, and it's been delicious. So let's get this going. So I have cut up my zucchini, I've added it, I covered all of this in our Old Bay seasoning, and now I'm going to use my hamburger patties that I divided out and weighed and put those on top. And if you're wondering what this little thing is on the bottom, this is like a veggie saver. My mother-in-law got me these for Christmas. They come in all sizes. They come in shapes for avocados, for tomatoes, and I've been using this one for the zucchini, and it makes them stay fresh longer. So I can link that in the bottom if it's something you'd be interested in. It was not something that I bought for myself, but I absolutely love these, and it has kept us from losing tomatoes and a lot of things because it will extend their life. So let's add the hamburger patties and cover this, and I normally put in about 6 teaspoons of bacon grease. But since I'm having hamburgers, I will probably decrease that to 3 teaspoons. Normally, I would add 6 if I had pork or if I had chicken. So I also will douse this hamburger patty with the Old Bay seasoning. And then we'll just cover this, add just a little bit of oil of your choice, and cook it at 400 for an hour. And here it is, ready to be served. You can change this up depending on what you have in your kitchen, and it can be different every time. So how much does a meal usually cost you in your kitchen to make at home? It is very affordable to be able to go around and grab some of these things that other people might consider to be scraps or waste and throw them together to make a meal. And then you have just saved the cost of a meal. I have been doing this lately. We are stuffed when we're done. We feel like we've eaten healthy because of all of the vegetables that are in there, and it's different every time. Usually I'll put in a lot of peppers or onions to go with it, but since I had the apple this time, I didn't put in the peppers and the onions. Now, mixing apples and potatoes goes way back to the 18th century. There used to be a potato and apple pie that was actually made in a crust and served with onions, and people would gather things and put things together like this that were delicious recipes. A lot of these recipes from the olden days might look on paper like they might not taste so great or go together, but they always were delicious and they were tried and true. So if you found it strange that I mixed an apple in with the potatoes and in with the vegetables, that is actually an old way of using up your produce on the farm. I do a lot of home cooking. We rarely eat out, especially since I've retired, because I'm here to cook the meals. I can save us so much money, and we feel like we are eating healthier by me cooking at home. Now, I do have 2 cookbooks that I wrote. 50 frugal recipes and 50 more frugal recipes when eating on a budget. And these include our Depression era recipes that I grew up with. And I still keep these handy because these are all of my favorite recipes that I still use today. The second one has all dairy and gluten-free options for all of the recipes. The first one has 45 different options, but I use these all the time because my husband is gluten-free. My 2 grown children that are the youngest are also dairy free. So we had to learn how to adapt. But if that is helpful to you, those links are always in my description box. No pressure to purchase them. I just like to show you my history and where I come from and how my thinking is when I come to cooking in the kitchen. And like I said, so many people might look at these wrinkled up potatoes, but when you peel off the peel, they are still firm. They are still usable pieces of produce. And Americans waste so much food by tossing it because sometimes, like that apple, it will be wrinkly and it may be turning a little yellow. And people are like, this isn't edible for me to take a bite out of it. No, it isn't. But you can peel those and make them into like a scalloped apple or a sugar and cinnamon type apple and have that on the side or even mix them into some of the dishes like I just showed you. There's no reason to throw that old produce out. Now, ultimately, we want to get to a point where we can use things up before they get wrinkly. But if they do, there's still no reason to toss those vegetables. They are still usable. They will not make you sick. There's nothing wrong with them underneath that skin that has just started to show its age. So I hope this video has given you some creative ideas moving forward on how you can avoid more waste in the kitchen and use up what you have and throw together some really affordable meals for your family without breaking the bank. Things are tough right now. People are struggling. We see that on the news. We see that everywhere, how people are struggling. But some of these old fashioned tricks that I'm sharing with you are the ways that I raised my kids, the ways that we still live, and it saves us so much money so that inflation has not really affected us. I'm more careful about what I purchase. I have changed some of the things that I do purchase, and I have brought back a lot of those old fashioned customs in the kitchen to make ends meet. Thanks for watching today, and I hope to see you in the next video.